number one, we could talk about leads because there's a lot of different things to talk about. There's so many different people who will tell you something different when it comes to leads. I'm the kind of person of like, whatever feels most true to you, I believe in treating that specifically like a business, right? Like, let me explain what I mean. For me, it's cold calling, right? Again, I'm not here to tell you to cold call. That's not what I want you to hear, okay? For me, my lead generation process, what feels comfortable to me, what I started doing, what I got, because I got in the business at 20, I'm 29 now, right? So cool. I didn't come in with a sphere. My 20-year-old friends weren't buying houses. So I had to cold call. What I heard eventually, because like as I started to grow and started to make more and more money, you know, 6 figures, 7 figures plus, whatever, my sphere still wasn't buying houses. So like building up a sphere of influence, like all of my friends and connections had to be, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? That's why a lot of my friends are of that age, right? I'm friends with a lot of older people that way because that's just what my network became. But always stayed true to cold calling. That was always the foundation of my business. Okay. So like today, the biggest lead pillar in my business today is cold calling. You know, between all of my team members, we do almost 150,000 calls a month. But what I want you to hear from that is I treat that like a business. So I want to reframe this in a let's go back to now phase 1 when it was just me. Think about like 2 agents racing or competing against each other if they just chose cold calling as their source. This person A could be making maybe 5 or 10 or 15, 20 calls a day. You know, maybe they get a lead, maybe they don't. And then person B, what I did was that I had 100 conversations a day every day. Didn't even care about how many calls I made. It was just until I literally could not stop calling because I was physically exhausted. But that's what took me to $100,000 a month in 36 months because most people don't do that kind of work. Now, let's rephrase it to referrals now. Now again, person A, person B. Person A makes a few phone calls every day, maybe a handful, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their best buddy John, their friend Sally, you know, their favorite attorney, kind of checking on things, but they don't treat it like a business. And then you have person B who is relentlessly, right, every day has a sphere of influence list in front of them every day of 300. And then they rip through that list every single day, right? And they maybe call the same few people every day because that's how deep of a relationship they have. And they literally will not get off the phone every single day until they have 2 or 3 or 4 referrals. There are levels to both. There's levels to all of it. You could do mailers and treat it the same way. Oh, I send out, 50 mailers a day versus somebody who does 10 or 20,000 a week. If we look at referrals, which by the way, give yourself some kudos. I mean, again, you're building a several hundred, multi-6-figure business off of just referrals alone is fantastic. A lot of people don't get there. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, a big piece of this is because Cali prices are fantastic because, people out in Ohio are jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep in mind that the commercial world works the same way. So if you're going to treat referrals like a business, which you can, it works the same way. You're going to be relentless in building your network. You're going to be like, Mondays are going to be for VIP clients, right? Like where you're going to basically come up with like your top 10, top 20 list of your most important people who have referred you the most people, whether you closed them or not, where they referred you the most clients. You are they're the most well-networked people, and you're going to build those relationships. You're going to call them every single Monday without fail. And then after you called all those people and you've done everything possible to get as many referrals from them, then you'll go into the next phase of next level referrals, right? Tuesdays can be past client, current client day, where the entire day you're going to spend calling your past clients, your current clients, where I like to, treat it again, like these people trusted you with their largest investment. Right. They had a fantastic experience. Not only should they be giving you reviews on Zillow and all the whole nine, right? For Resi or in commercial, think about it like people hang out with the same kind of people. So like if they're not referring you, it's only because you're not asking for it.
That's true. Okay.
So treat Tuesdays is like, I'm going to do my update calls, my status calls for all my current clients, but I'm going to ask them for referrals if they're having a great experience. Hey, I just wanted to check in, how's everything going? We just had our inspection. Everything went well. Just wanted to say, how is my team and I doing how is my team and I doing for you right now? Right? And they're saying you're doing fantastic. Thank you so much. As soon as they give you anything positive, it's an opening to go for a referral.
Great for it. Okay.
Wednesdays is database, if not, you can call it contact book day, which is basically every single contact in your phone. Okay. And treat Wednesdays as like, you can start off with A's, because the beautiful thing about how this worked out is there's 52 weeks in a year. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. You can call basically every single person depending on how many letters you go, but you can do like A's and B's, basically within a 13-week period, you can get through everybody. So you're going to basically rip through your contact book every single Wednesday, just treat it, but again, it's the same focus. I'm not here to just have a conversation, which of course building rapport and building relationships in there, but as soon as there's an opening, I'm going to ask for referrals, right? And it's like, I'm not, and maybe you go through A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, F's, whatever, and you still haven't gotten a referral, you're going to keep going. Okay, Thursdays. Thursdays, I just look at as all follow-up. The whole day is just follow-up, right? Every single lead you've ever spoken to, every single lead that you need to speak to, whatever. Like, you know, I don't care how behind you are on tasks, or maybe you're super ahead on tasks. Great. Yeah. Then you're going to take the next level with all your leads, and you're going to be sending out video messages to your hottest leads, right? You're going to be sending them, you know, like go that extra mile, right? Go knock a door in person, right? Like go take whatever the next step is with all your follow-up, but make sure it's clean every Thursday. And then Friday, we call it whales. Okay. Go after your biggest targets. These are developers. These are the biggest investors in the entire area, right? Like these are the like dream clients, dream client day, right? Like, hey, I want to become the real estate agent for Los Angeles, you know, the Lakers, right? Like the 49ers, right? You know, whatever, right? You want to become like that, the agent who works with those types of people, then you're going to spend every Friday getting one step closer to that network. And then what I would say is like, okay, so again, that's just lead gen.
That's lead gen, yeah.
Right? But whatever lead, and again, if you're choosing referrals, it's again with the relentless attitude. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, how many calls a day are you making right now? 5, maybe. So think about it. It's like, okay, do you believe that you're doing everything possible to get as many referrals every single day as possible?
No.
What would it look like if you did like full all out? I gave it 100% today. What would that look like?
That would, yeah, I mean, it would look like the structure, I guess, just making phone calls, talking to everybody, making sure at the end of the day, I go, who didn't I talk to?
I would look at like, do you like to work out? Like, what's something that you love to do?
Yeah, working out.
Okay, cool. I'm getting back into it as well, so I'm feeling great.
Nice.
So it's like, you know, at the gym when you had an unbelievable workout because you gave it every single bit of energy possible, versus a workout where like, I really, you know, you're hanging out with a friend, you were chatting. You didn't hit the weights as heavy as you possibly could because you were chatting the whole time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of people do the same thing in their business, but it's every day. And then they wake up 3 years later and they're like, why am I not making $100,000? Or why am I still making the same money I've been making every year? Why am I making less money this year than the year before? Well, maybe you took your foot off the gas. And I'll give you an example, right? Even for myself. 3 years ago, it's like COVID-ish, right after 2021-ish, okay? I met my fiance. Okay. I was making about $80,000 to $150,000 a month without working that hard. My team was handling a lot. Things were kind of on clockwork. I mean, I was maybe working 10 days of 30 days in the month, and I was traveling the rest because she lived in California, so I was always traveling. I was doing other things. So it came really easy for about 8 months. And then all of a sudden, things started to shift a little bit, and it became infinitely harder, and I was in this zone of only working 10 days out of the month. And then I had a real gut check because it's like, hey, like, wait a second, last month we only made $40,000. You know, all of a sudden I made a third of what I was used to. And I was like, wait a second, like, what's going on here? So you have to keep in mind that like, hey, like when good times come, you work 3 times as hard, because what happens is then you can sandbag a lot of cash so that when bad times come, like we're in rough times right now, like you're sitting on enough cash where like I can withstand a 2 or 3 year period like this, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's the type of power that you need to think about, like when things are really, really good, and even when things are really bad. Like I tell my guys right now, I'm like, guys, you're going to work 3 times as hard for half the result in 2020, 2021. That's what we're doing right now. The agents who don't want to commit to that are going to be out of the business.
They're out. Yeah.
But the agents who commit to doing that level of effort, are not only going to thrive during this time, when things come back, they're going to make $1 million in a year, and it's going to feel easy. It's going to feel
this crazy, yeah.
Right, but that's how this business works, right? It's literally just these huge swings, and it's rarely in between. So just keep it like that's why it's like you just have to be so consistent the whole freaking time. So let's talk about commercial a little bit. Any other questions, by the way, on the lead gen? You feel kind of comfortable?
No, that's actually, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and look, it works for resi, it works for commercial. It's anything you do, but like, look, again, we do cold calling, so that's why I do a lot of cold calls, right? Like that's just, it's just our thing. So when it comes to commercial, I want to keep in mind, I'm also one of the most patient people you'll ever meet. So if you ask the same question 3 times, it's totally fine. You're like, hey, I still don't understand. Can you explain it one more time? Or what does this mean? Like, don't be afraid to ask. Whether on any of the trainings, anything you see on social media, the YouTube videos, anything. Like you're like, hey, like I saw you posted this. I don't know what this means. Can you just clarify whatever? Like, or hey, like, how does this pertain to this? One is you can ask as many questions. Cool. So when it comes to commercial, a few things that I like to mention. is that similar to the residential business when you first started, the commercial business is a lot of learning on the go. So like, don't think you need to know everything before you start. Just like in the first few days in the residential business, like you're like asking all these questions, but like until you do the deal, right? Like until you generate the lead and until you have to go show a house, like what do you need to know, right? Like you kind of just have to do it and then to experience it. And I'm not saying you need to know everything, because you can say like, hey, my partner Henry, let me speak to my partner, and you could just, that's how I would talk for the, first, couple months here while you're just still getting your feet wet on the commercial side. You'd always say like, hey, let me get my partner Henry on the phone, maybe we can conversation, right? And I don't mind doing that with you, right?
Cool. Okay.
So we're always there for that. There's that. And keep in mind that the big piece of commercial is just shifting the way you speak now to clients. So I'll give you another example with this, which is very interesting, because I came from the residential world too, right?
Yeah.
So how you speak to people is going to dictate how they think of you and refer you. So when you say to them, hey, like they say, how's the real estate business going? Oh, it's doing well. I just helped this young couple buy a house. It was their first house. It was really nice, whatever. What you just said to them was that I work with first-time home buyers. So when they go, hey, speaking to a 25-year-old, 29-year-old kid looking to buy their first house, I think of Austin. Instead, that's why you need to be very careful with what you say to people, because everything you say will be used in regards to how they believe and think about you. So, because if everything you say is about houses, whether it's online, social media, or even on the phone, like, hey, doing great, because when I talk to people, I all the time will say like, again, I'm an investor first, broker second, right?
Okay.
I have to be very careful with how I talk, because like, if I keep saying like, hey, I'm a broker, what happens is now real estate brokers don't want to refer me business, because I'm an investor. I need to move millions of dollars a year of investment capital that my client, my partners are looking to move. That's one of the biggest priorities in my life, right? Is finding great deals for them. When I speak and tell, when I'm speaking with people, I like to get to know who they are and what's the best path of success with this individual. So like when I'm with a friend of mine who's worth $1 billion and we're talking about, his investment portfolio, I'm not going to say like, me talking about you as an example. Let's say you're talking to somebody like that. You're not gonna be like, hey, I specifically can help you with your single family house needs. So that's why it's like, you need to be very careful with who you're speaking to and what's going to be the easiest path of success with this person, right? If you're speaking to a 28-year-old who just helped them buy a single family house, you're probably going to want to continue to tell them like, hey, like I can support you in any way that way.
Exactly.
But with next level person, next person up, right? Someone who's looking to buy investment properties, they start coming to you like, listen, whether you're buying residential or commercial properties, I handle it all. It's just being very clear that I handle any type of real estate needs you have. Commercial, residential, you keep putting in these people's heads, I'm that guy. First off, just be very clear, because we're starting a hedge fund this year, which I'm excited to do. It's like I'm speaking to certain people when like they say like, oh, I do investment, private equity real estate. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm actually starting a hedge fund. Like whatever I feel is going to relate best to that situation, I'm going to say that's my main. And you just need to be nimble with it. Number two is Reonomy. I think is one of the best platforms out there. I've been using it ever since I started selling commercial real estate. I think it's probably one of the only softwares that I'd recommend that you probably should have no matter what. Just because you generate a lead, where else are you going to look up the information?
And besides LoopNet.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point, right? Like, so what I actually do is funny enough, right? Like, I go on Reonomy first. I log everything in Reonomy. I then cross-reference it with CoStar to see if there's anything I missed. Maybe there's more details in CoStar. See if the square footages add up. Like, are they the same, right?
Gotcha.
And then the last place I'll look is LoopNet. So I'll do all three when I'm reverse looking it up for a lead. But even if you just had Reonomy and LoopNet and you can kind of cross-reference back and forth, that's probably enough to get you started. Plus with CoStar, with Reonomy.
Yeah.
Let me show you this real fast. This is Reonomy. All I did was I searched by Maricopa County, Arizona.
Cool.
What I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you a few key things that I think are very, very lucrative. Number one is I like to look at your market, right? So if we go to commercial type, we go to multifamily, and we go to general. Obviously, you could do triplex, quad, duplex, like smaller stuff as well. But general just means above 5, right? That's typically how they market. Now, obviously, look, Reonomy's not perfect, so something in general might be a 2-family, but most of the time these are larger. There's 4,426. Now, what's interesting though is that that's the whole market. That's all that's logged in the system, right? So there's only 4,500 multifamily properties total. So what I like to look at here is what has sold. So this is a really cool feature. What has sold within the last 12 months? How many properties sold? So 226 have sold in the last 12 months. What's interesting though is if you go back 10 years, so that means about 320 properties a year sell, right? So it's been a little bit slower the last 12 months.
Slower.
So I kind of like look to like kind of see like, hey, are we on track? Are we off track? Like what's a slow month? What's a long, right? So, I mean, if you look the last 5 years, it's actually kind of crazy. So last 5 years, because COVID probably, junked this thing up, right? So now this is like, if you take 2,100 divided by 5, it's like 410. 415, 420. You can see that. So let's just do this. The reason why I say this is because we also want to see how many include a phone number. So there you go, 3,600. Because this is how many leads you could pull. This is the way I look at it, right? Like, so like, okay, well, you have 3,600 leads you could pull in this marketplace that are multifamilies, 5+ units roughly. The only other thing is that I would pull by tax bracket. So, right, so if you do, let's just say 15,000 at a minimum to probably... See, this is what's interesting. Look, we're already only at 1,500 properties. So that means a lot of them are tiny, right? Because 15,000 in taxes, I mean, I'm imagining that's got to be like, a small 5-fam. I'm like, maybe, Arizona, I'm imagining has pretty decent taxes, right? Real estate taxes.
Yeah.
Jersey's very expensive. That's why, we're like, I think the highest in the country for real estate taxes. So like, if you look this basic, right? So you have 1,500 properties now. If you hit apply, and then let's look at it this way now. So if we go back to sales within the last 12 months, you only have 50, right? Okay. So it's like, okay, well, of this pocket of properties, you can see like, okay, well, a lot of the smaller stuff sells, right? Like a lot of the smaller stuff trades. Like the larger stuff here, you can see clearly doesn't really trade as frequently. Because what's interesting though, and this is what like I think is very important to even see for even residential or any type of business, but specifically commercial, is like, dude, there's only 4 sales a month, right? 4 a month. So like, if you had 10% market share, that's only 5 deals this year. Think about a broker is doing 10% market share in resi, right? Like,
right.
You're thinking this guy's doing 2, 3, 4, 500 transactions, right?
Yeah.
Like, here it's 5, but that's just multifamily, which is why I do multi-asset classes. So like in New Jersey, as an example, there's about 3,000 or so transactions that trade every year. Something like 33 to 3,500, right? But multi-asset classes, like this is across several different asset classes that I focus on. The problem is that if I only did, let's just say multifamily, there might be only 700 or 800 or 1,000 sales. Right now, it's like I want to be able to see where like, hey, if I got 1 or 2% market share, there's enough meat on the bone for Henry. So that's why, like, for here, it's like, okay, if you got 10% market share, you're doing 5 deals this year, right? And that's obviously that's just Maricopa County, right? Like obviously you can go out geographically, right? Because like we do the whole state of New Jersey. And as you kind of get the feelings for things, you might want to expand geographically because then obviously you're going to have a lot more properties to call. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick couple things here. We sorted this by taxes, by multifamily. That obviously includes a phone number. Sales last year, we're going to get rid of that. So we're going to say that has not sold, not within, the last 5 years, okay? Yeah. This first list is probably where I would go, right, to start. Mm-hmm. But you could also go into things like, okay, I don't want to do a year built of like 2000 or sooner because obviously if they built in 2015, they're probably not going to sell right now. But the point is like you could start making a couple of these quick assumptions. That would always work. I always like to go. You can also do sales. For here you could do. Okay, I don't want to call stuff that's above $10 million. And I don't want to, because this might be way too expensive for stuff. All of a sudden you're calling, these are the deals that have traded like 100+ units, 200 units, 500 units, right? Maybe you're not prepared for that right this second to have that kind of conversation. So you can call like sub 10 million or even sub 5 million. But see, like already we're only at 176 properties in this list. So like all of a sudden now it's like you only got 175 properties to call. Like if you put it into a dialer, you're going to finish that in a day. So anyways, you can kind of sort by this to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up. You can remove that. Now you have to 247, but you kind of get my point how you can kind of slide the scale. Let's just say now you come across a lead, 20 unit, 30 unit, 10 unit, whatever it is. Okay. What you do now is you can flip over to the owners tab. What the owners tab is that it basically is the backwards search. Instead of looking for, the properties that you're looking to call as sellers, this is going to give you the people you should be calling to build relationships with because these are the biggest buyers in your marketplace. So the only thing I always like to do is go to owner and check person. Because you're not going to call Blackstone. So what I always like to say is like, hey, every person on the top 50 list who owns this guy, Robert, owns $20+ million worth of real estate. He owns 14 properties in your market that are all multifamilies that all meet this criteria, that are above $15,000 in taxes, right, in this area. So it's like, hey, I would call Robert, and by the way, his phone number is here, right? You can see there's a phone number here. You can call him, right? Okay. His entire portfolio, by the way, is 100% multifamily. You can see all these people, right? Like, this is gonna be a good person to know. I would call him up, say like, listen, Robert, I'm a newer commercial broker in the area. I come across a number of decent multifamilies. I'd love to be able to get to know you and what your criteria looks like, so I can bring you some awesome opportunities. That's it. You do that for the top 50 people here. That's the simplicity of this game. And all of a sudden, now you're becoming friends with all these guys. When you come across a deal, you kick it out to your people. You get an offer every time. Because again, in the commercial world, a lot of this game is having both sides. This is not just listing properties for sale, listing properties for sale. This is not about how many listings you have. This is not that game. Okay, that's very old corporate thinking in commercial real estate. I don't like taking listings because what a listing, think about it like this. In commercial, think about how silly this is. Somebody calls you up. They go, hi, my name is so-and-so. I see you're a commercial real estate broker. I was referred to you by Sally. I'm looking to sell my building, right? Multifamily, 20 units. What happens is most people go, awesome, let's sign an exclusive right to sell. Let's put this on the market. But it's like, why would you not just call the top 50 buyers right here and try to double end the transaction? So this is how we're averaging, 5.5, 6% on every single one of our deals, right? So I don't have to sell as much real estate to make as much money. Keep in mind that like listing is a last resort, right? And 9 times out of 10, if you go on LoopNet right now, everything you see listed has been on the market for 100, 200, 300, 500 days because it's overpriced. If it's priced appropriately, they already have a buyer, right? So you need both sides. Like commercial real estate, think about it like this: residential real estate is the lead generation business and the listing contract business. Okay. You have to do both, right? That's if you don't do either one, you will not make money. That's the only two businesses you should be in. You should be generating the leads and then going to list those properties. Period. End of story. And you will be in business a long time. In commercial real estate, slightly different. It is in the lead generation business, and then it's in the offer generation business. So you're generating the leads, and instead of listing them for sale because you want other brokers to sell them, you need to then go find buyers to get offers on those properties. So you need both sides.
Need them both. Okay.
And again, all the details are right here. All the phone numbers are right here. You just got to call them up and treat them the same way, just like I told you with the structure.
How does that phone call usually go? I know you deal with different people, but as far as
most of the time they're very open. If you call as a buyer, it's rare. I mean, I call as like a broker and say like, hey, again, just very transparent. I'm a newer broker in the area. I'm coming across a couple decent opportunities of multifamily. I see you own a lot of multifamilies in the area. I'm not asking for a listing whatsoever. I just love to get to know you, learn about what your criteria is, and maybe if I come across a decent deal, I can bring it to you, and hopefully we could do some business together. Are you open to
Okay.
Would you prefer a coffee meeting, or do you have a few minutes now on the phone? And you're going to say that 50 times to the top 50. I mean, the list here, by the way, goes 5 pages. So you have like several hundred that you can go. It has all their details, how many properties they own, makes it really simple, right? But you're going to call them up, and you're probably going to go meet and have a conversation with 100 of them, and maybe 10 or 20 of them are going to end up being decent, and you're going to end up doing a lot of business with maybe 2 or 3.
Perfect.
Right? But I'll be honest with you, I have 2 or 3 guys that each make me somewhere between $250 and $1 million a year. Similar to, and it started with a cold call. We've known each other now. Some of these guys have known 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what it starts from.
Straight from a cold.
What other questions can I answer for you?
Honestly, that's the beginning of it. Is just how do you get your feet wet? Where do you start? The rest of it's going to be learning as we go, and I'll probably end up having to call you as far as understanding language, understanding what to do, how comps, all those things. And I see that you have lessons on those, so I'll just watch those.